There's a moment that happens to some people that almost no one else notices. You walk into a place that's already full, conversations overlapping, music that isn't quite loud enough to be clear, but loud enough that your brain has to keep adjusting. Someone brushes past your shoulder. Someone laughs too loudly behind you. Your eyes start scanning for an exit before you even realize you're doing it. Nothing is technically wrong, but something inside you quietly tightens. Other people seem energized by it. They lean in, talk louder, move closer. Meanwhile, you're calculating how long it would be socially acceptable to stay before leaving. And if you've experienced this enough times, you may have heard the usual explanations. Shy, antisocial, too sensitive, just needs to get used to people. Society tends to interpret discomfort with crowds as a personality flaw, as if enjoying packed rooms and constant social energy is the default setting for a healthy human mind. But for some people, that interpretation misses something important, because what looks like avoidance on the surface is often something else entirely. A pattern? And once you see the pattern, the experience starts to make a different kind of sense. The truth is, there's a specific psychology behind people who dislike crowds, and it has much less to do with confidence than people assume. For many individuals, crowds create a form of cognitive overload. Your brain is constantly filtering information. Every sound, movement, face, voice tone, background noise, change in lighting, subtle shift in body language. Most of the time, the brain quietly filters out what isn't important, but not everyone's filter works the same way. Research in neuroscience has shown that some nervous systems process more environmental input than others. Studies on sensory processing sensitivity and introversion have repeatedly found higher activity in brain regions involved in awareness, emotional processing, and threat detection. Which means a crowded environment doesn't just contain more people, it contains exponentially more information. Your brain isn't simply seeing a group, it's tracking dozens of microsignals simultaneously. Who's standing too close? Which conversation your brain accidentally picked up? The movement in the corner of your vision? The subtle tension in someone's voice across the room? For someone wired this way, a crowd doesn't feel exciting. It feels like running too many apps on a phone at the same time. Eventually, the battery starts draining. This is why some people can spend 3 hours at a busy party and feel energized, while someone else needs quiet after 20 minutes. Not because one person is stronger or weaker, but because their nervous systems are processing entirely different amounts of input, and that wiring rarely appears randomly. It often develops quietly through life experiences. Some people grew up in environments where reading the room mattered. Subtle emotional signals carried meaning. Tension had consequences. Paying attention became a kind of protection. Over time, the brain becomes very good at scanning environments, very good at noticing shifts, very good at detecting what others miss. In calm spaces, this sensitivity can feel like insight. In crowded spaces, it can feel like too much. Your brain never fully powers down. And here's where the misunderstanding usually happens. People assume disliking crowds means disliking people, but those two things are not the same. Many people who struggle in crowded environments are actually highly attuned to others. They notice emotional details, tone changes, small behavioral shifts that larger groups tend to overlook. Ironically, the thing that makes crowds draining is often the same thing that makes one-on-one conversations meaningful. Depth replaces volume. Clarity replaces noise. This is also why forcing yourself to enjoy crowded environments rarely works the way people expect. The nervous system isn't responding to a belief, it's responding to stimulation, and stimulation has limits. If any part of this feels strangely familiar so far, there's a quiet reason this kind of psychology resonates with people. Many viewers here tend to recognize patterns in themselves that were never really explained growing up. If that's you, leaving a like or subscribing helps this kind of conversation reach more people who've had the same quiet question in the back of their minds. Because what's interesting is that crowd aversion often comes with an unexpected paradox. The same brain that becomes overwhelmed in chaotic environments can be unusually perceptive in calm ones. Psychologists sometimes describe this as depth of processing. Instead of skimming interactions, the mind goes deeper into them. Instead of reacting quickly, it observes first. Instead of absorbing energy from groups, it absorbs meaning from individuals. But every trait carries trade-offs. The strength is awareness. The cost is overstimulation. Crowds compress too many signals into a small space. Too many unpredictable movements, voices, and emotional cues happening simultaneously. Your brain keeps trying to process them all. Eventually, the system asks for quiet. Not because something is wrong, because recovery is part of how that system stays balanced. And when people don't understand this, the experience can become confusing. You might wonder why you enjoy people but dislike gatherings. Why meaningful conversations feel energizing, but busy rooms feel exhausting. Why stepping outside for air suddenly makes everything calmer again. None of those reactions are random. They're patterns of regulation, your nervous system adjusting itself. In fact, studies on environmental psychology show that humans regulate stimulation constantly. Some people seek more input to feel engaged. Others regulate by reducing input to stay balanced. Neither pattern is inherently better. They're simply different strategies for interacting with the world. Crowds happen to sit at one extreme of stimulation, which means people who prefer quieter environments often aren't rejecting social life. They're choosing a version of it that fits their wiring. And once people understand that, something subtle tends to change. The shame disappears, because what once looked like avoidance starts looking more like self-awareness. The ability to notice when your internal system is reaching its limit. That awareness doesn't make someone fragile. If anything, it means their brain has learned how to listen to signals many people ignore. And in a culture that constantly rewards louder environments, that quieter form of awareness often goes unnoticed. But it has value. It's the same sensitivity that notices when someone in a room feels left out. The same attention that picks up emotional nuance in a conversation. The same instinct that senses tension before anyone says a word. Crowds simply amplify the volume of those signals. So if you've ever felt that quiet urge to step outside, to stand at the edge of the room, or to leave earlier than everyone else, it doesn't necessarily mean something is missing in you. In many cases, it means your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Regulate, observe, protect its energy. And once people begin to see that clearly, a strange kind of relief tends to follow, because the experience stops feeling like a personal flaw and starts looking like a pattern that was always there, one that simply needed the right explanation. And interestingly, people who recognize this pattern in themselves often start noticing other traits they were misinterpreting for years. The way they think in quiet moments, the way they read people, the way certain environments drain them while others make them feel unexpectedly clear. Those patterns tend to reveal more about a person than crowds ever could. And once you start seeing them, it becomes difficult to unsee them.